This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so today we'll be diving into the first most important thing of Azure IaaS, that is virtual machines. So this is the interesting part of Azure because everybody wants to have a virtual machine in cloud. So that's the cake piece of it. So there are a lot of other good features, but almost when I talk about virtual machines, the students are excited. So virtual. So you'd have already been seen this, or you would have already worked in virtual machines in Azure. But still, like I'll try to keep it to whatever is needed most and all, and how do you manage to create a virtual machine and all. We'll talk about it.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So we will try to see the machine architecture. So this is the very basic architecture pulled out from Microsoft pages, and we'll deploy a Windows virtual machine. We'll create a storage account for virtual machine disks, and we'll deploy a Linux virtual machine into the storage account. So using unmanaged disk option, and we'll manage some virtual machine disks. We will scale them, scale up and down. We'll do it. We'll configure some shared storage, and we'll see like what all things are supported in Azure VM and what all are not, and a little bit of pricing. So mainly like this course is divided into two parts. So first is still like deploying a Linux VM. So the second part can be covered later, but we'll see if we have time. I'll take you through those also.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the virtual machine architecture. Okay, so basically, like we have the internet, open internet out here, and we'll have a simple resource group created. So inside this resource group, you'll have all your components of your virtual machines inside it. So first, the very basic component is the virtual network. So virtual network will be here. Yeah.
I think I'm unable to see the your screen basically.
I forgot to share my screen. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, is it loading?
Not really. I can't see actually. Maybe can I disconnect and join again?
Sure, not a problem.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so as I was saying, so we'll be going through virtual machine architecture. So we'll be deploying a Windows virtual machine, and you can see the change in slides, right?
I can see. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll create a storage account for virtual machine disk. We'll deploy a Linux virtual machine into the storage account using the unmanaged disk option, and we'll manage some virtual machine disks. We'll configure a shared storage, and we'll identify some support workloads and what all things are supported in Azure VMs and what all are not. We'll check that out, and a little bit of the pricing calculator we'll see. Okay, so coming to the machine architecture. So if you see here, so we have the open internet in this place, and we normally have a resource group, and inside the resource group, all the other components should be present. So this public IP address is actually not a mandatory for a virtual machine. I can have a virtual machine without a public IP address. So that also is there in organizations where you'll have multiple virtual machines without a public IP address, and the public IP address will be part of the load balancer which is configured. So that also we'll see when we're building a available application. So for basic understanding, so this is how it works. So you'll have a virtual network, and your public IP address passes through the virtual network's firewall, that is the subnet and all, and it goes inside and hits the NIC card or the virtual machine. So the virtual machine is again a virtual component, and its data is stored in different disks. So you can have an operating system disk, which is again a virtual hard disk in a storage account. Data disk may be a D drive in another virtual hard disk in a storage account. So if you want another E drive, you can have that in another virtual disk in the storage account. So even you can have a diagnostic logs and a log storage account also. So if you just enable it, it will basically create a storage account for you, and it will put the diagnostic logs in that. So this temp drive is actually used for the paging file, and it is present in a physical hard disk. So basically, if you understand the concept of, or if you go into the concept of paging, so normally what we do is like if I can put a chunk of my hard disk as a give it to the OS as a RAM and ask it to use it, that this part of my hard disk can use it as a RAM. I'm giving this up for you. So what basically we are doing is we are tricking the machine or the OS to think like, instead of my regular say 2 GB of RAM, I have now 4 GB of RAM. And what the OS does is it manages this part of hard disk as well as the RAM as a single unit, and it manages them as a RAM. So this is how the paging file works. So even in a Windows machine also, you can have a paging file. You can increase and decrease it. So normally, okay, one simple example is when we play computer games and all, and if I need the game needs a memory of 4 GB, but I have only 3 GB of RAM or only 2 GB of RAM. So that time what I'll do is I'll increase my paging file to 2 GB or 4 GB, so that it will give me enough boost for my particular game to run. It will show like, okay, he's having 4 GB of RAM and I can run it. So this is not a good practice to increase it to more than its limit, because again it will put a pressure on your processor. So my processor, if it is i3 or i5, it is designed to handle a 4 GB to 8 GB of RAM. But if I'm increasing my RAM to say 16 GB, then definitely my processor is going to make it slow and the processing will be affected. So that's why for every processing or CPU course, there is a specific set of RAM or specific set of hard disk which needs to be there. So for this much processor, you should have this much specific RAM with this much specific hard disk. So if you're altering it, then you'll be affecting the performance of the machine.
Hello.
Source group container. Yeah, can you hear me?
The last bit I've
Hello.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, the last bit I was unable to hear actually. It got disconnected.
Okay, so basically I was talking like for every virtual machine and every hard disk and paging file. So for a virtual machine, you need to have, it is already specified that if you want to go for a 1-core processor, then it is better for you to have a 4 GB RAM. If you're going for a 2-core processor, you can have a 8 GB RAM. So that specification is already there in Azure and it cannot be altered. So basically what Microsoft is trying to say is,
No,
if
no,
you're trying to
where
alter this,
okay, that is when we are creating VM itself, it says
yeah,
that
yeah.
this is the prerequisite.
Yes, yes. And we are scaling up and down also. You can change from one tier to another tier. So we cannot alter like, okay, for two processor CPU, I want a 16 GB RAM. Because if you're doing that, then you're affecting the performance of the of your entire virtual machine. So
Okay,
that's the
so when
reason.
I
So
create the virtual machine,
yeah,
so what is the minimum prerequisite you said? If I wanted to have one processor, it should be 8 GB of RAM, yeah?
I think like basic one is one processor with 3.5 GB of RAM. So we will look into that when we show in the demo. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Okay, so coming to resource group. So basically a resource group contains all the resources required to successfully deploy a virtual machine. So basically it will be talking about all the things here we have. So
Okay,
basically if
in this diagnostic logs, so
okay,
what it does basically, it creates a separate storage account, and it
yes,
will hold all the logs of the VMs in and out
yes,
happening, and then
yes.
by that separate storage account, I can just log into that, and can I have a look at the all my logs, or I should reach Microsoft for having my each and every time to look at my
No, no.
logs.
So these logs, you don't need to log into the particular storage account. So if you're logged into the portal, you will see the storage account there itself. And all these logs will be stored in a blob storage. So all this blob storage, you'll have like specific log files with the links and all. You can just download the logs and you can work with them. Or if you have a Azure Storage Explorer or Azure Storage Explorer if you have, or Visual Studio if you have, you can connect to the storage account and there also you can view the logs. So basically,
Okay.
like these are the logs from your OS which gets pushed into this storage account. So instead of when you're building a VM for a particular team, then as your Azure admin, so you don't have to go inside the VM to see the logs, because you may have hundreds of VMs, right?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So from the portal, you can go into the particular storage account and you can see the logs. So we'll deep dive into it in monitoring and logging class.
Okay.
Okay, so like I was saying, so resource group is basically a container
So
that
basically,
holds
it is a system logs, not the any other logs. Yeah.
yeah. So it is basically we'll have multiple logs. Like one is the guest OS and one is the systems logs. So system log is how your virtual machine is performing, and guest OS is how the operating system is performing. So like your web server or the IaaS service or any other service which is hosted. So those logs also we can capture and put it in the storage account. So we will go into it. Okay, so next is the resource group. So basically it is a folder or a container that holds related resources together. So like I said, the name is related resources for Azure solution. So basically when I'm creating a storage, creating a resource group, so it will be for my virtual machine. So it will have the public IP address, the virtual machine namespace, the operating system, the storage accounts, and whatever is required, the virtual network subnet. So everything will be in the same resource group. So we'll go into that when I show you the how it is created and all. Okay, so it is used to deploy, manage, and maintain them as a single entity. So going to virtual machines on Azure. So any Azure virtual machine is one of the several types of on-demand scaling computing resource that Azure offers. So typically you choose a
that resource group again. Just wanted to have a look at that.
Sure.
So in that above diagram, so what will be the resource group? The complete the architecture itself is a okay. This bit itself is a resource group.
Yeah. So this
The
entire
complete
container is a
okay.
yeah.
Which
So
has
even
this
like yeah,
the
so you can
NIC.
have NIC and everything. Whatever you're deploying into the particular resource group will be present inside the resource group. So you can have a resource group of virtual network, storage, and VM and everything. I can also have just a resource group for all my networks, a resource group for all my storage accounts. So like that also I can manage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
separated.
So it all depends on how you're planning it. Okay. So resource group slide you're done with?
Yes, just can you put the slide on? Okay, no problem. I'll just have a look later. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share this slide with you also.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming to virtual machines, it is one of the several types of on-demand scalable computing resources that Azure is offering. So typically you will choose a virtual machine when you need to have more control over the computing environment than the other choices offer. So a VM will give you the flexibility of virtualization without having to buy and maintain the physical hardware. So you're not buying the networking, you're not buying the hard disk and all, but still you're having a virtual machine that runs it. So you still need to maintain the VM by performing tasks such as configuring, patching, installing the software that runs it. So basically they're telling us the VM is yours, you are the owner and you need to take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay, some scenarios where we need virtual machines is, so for a development and test environment. So this is a basic one where you'll get a requirement from a dev team that we need a dev environment for this thing, developing and testing applications. To have some applications in cloud, because demand for your application can fluctuate, so it might go economic sense to run it on a VM in Azure. So you pay extra for VMs when you need them and you shut them down when you don't. So this part we will see when we are talking about scaling and all. So that time I will show you this how to do this and all. Extended data center. So this means like I already have on-premise environment, plus I want to have a virtual network in Azure. So that also we can have, and we can have this virtual network connected to my on-premise environment through an express route or a particular VPN connection I can have. Okay, so these are some of the considerations when you are naming your resource groups or applications and all. So it should be always like your location where the resources are stored should be there, the names of your application resources. So the size of the virtual machine you need to consider. You need to consider the number of maximum virtual machines that can be created, how many operating systems that the virtual machine will run. So the configuration of the virtual machine after it starts and related resources that it needs. So these are the considerations you need to be prepared with before going to create a virtual machine.
Okay, when you say location where the resources are stored, it is going to be obviously in cloud, right?
No, here what they're talking about is, say for example, I'm giving the my virtual machine's location as say North US, and I'm giving my network as Asia Pac. Then that doesn't make any sense, right? So again, there will be a latency between the both. So yeah. So what they're saying is basically, if you want to club them together into one place, or if you see like you're building all these resources for one location, then you put them in that location. You should not put them in different locations and let them integrate to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're not saying like it cannot be done. It can be done, but again, it's a performance constraint.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to naming, so the virtual machine name can be up to 15 characters. So you need to make sure like you have proper naming convention, and from the name itself, you should be able to identify that it is a Windows server belonging to this particular region and for this particular purpose. So mostly it will be like dev win, then some of the name of the project or whatever it is. Based on that, you can take this up. Okay. So if you use Azure to create the operating system disk, the computer name and virtual machine name are the same. So if you upload using your own image that contains a previously configured OS and used to create a virtual machine, then the names can be different. So we recommend that when you upload your own image file, you make the computer name and the OS and the virtual machine name the same. So it is easy for you to understand and easy for you to manage if both the machine name and the OS names are same. Yeah, so coming to location, so all resources created in Azure are distributed across multiple geographic regions around the world. So usually the region is called a location when you create a virtual machine. So for a VM, the location specifies where the virtual hard disks will be stored. So basically your storage account and all where it will be, so that is the location. So you can create a virtual machine using the portal, using PowerShell, using REST API, using CLI. So you can create a virtual machine, or you can select a location for the virtual machine using any of these also. Okay, size and limitations. So the size of the virtual machine that you use is determined by the workload that you want to run. So the size that you choose when determines the factors such as processing power, memory, storage. So basically you'll see like there is a P1, there is a premium 2, there is a V1, V2. So in that way they have categorized all the tiers of virtual machines. So depending on your need, you can go for a high-end virtual machine or for a low-end virtual machine. So say for example, I want a dev server created. I can go for the minimum ends. I don't have to go for a high end. But when it comes to production, definitely I need to go for a high end virtual machine. Okay, coming to charging. So Azure charges an hourly price based on the virtual machine size and operating system. So for partial hours, Azure charges only for the minutes used. So storage price is charged separately. So all your storage accounts or whatever data there in the storage account will be charged separately, and virtual machine is charged separately. So your subscription will have some default quota limits in place that could impact the deployment of multiple VMs for your project. So normally this will come into picture when you're going for a single subscription. If you're going for an organization-wide or enterprise account, so this may not come into play that much because you will have a wider license and wider subscription. So current limit on a per subscription basis is 20 VMs per region. So again, this is 20 VMs per region. So if you want, rarely there will be a case where you need to, so you can always have source group and you can add VMs into that. So limits can be raised by filing a support ticket requesting an increase.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So virtual machines uses virtual hard disks or VHDs, so to store the operating system OS and data. So these OSDs are also used for the images you can choose to install on OS. So I'll show this to you. And Azure provides many marketplace images. So this is what we are going to use. So basically, we'll take a simple Windows server and we'll try to create it. So again, you can have a 64-bit. You can have so only 64-bit OS are right now supported. So for further information, you can see into this link and how the supports roles and all are there. So you can choose to upload and use your own image also. And when you do, the publisher name, offer, and SKU aren't used. So SKU is basically a stock keeping unit. So this is a jargon which shows you that okay, these many items are being there in your particular bucket or in your particular subscription. So basically, it's a jargon used to identify like how many resources or how many items are being consumed by your subscription. Okay, so extensions we'll go into later. So let me show you how it looks like. Okay, so we'll go into deploying a virtual machine. Okay, so from the portal, so this is a sample of the Azure portal, which if you go to portal.azure.com, you'll see this portal. And here you need to go into new, and from the new you can choose compute. So once you're selecting compute, you'll see like all the marketplace images which are available. So if you see like I can have a Windows machine, I can have a Linux machine, I can have a SQL server with Windows server in it. Sorry, Windows server with SQL server installed in it. I can have a virtual machine scale set and all. So these things will go into that during other classes. So basically for now, I'll take a Windows Server 2016 data center and I'll try to create a virtual machine. So the first thing which I need is the name. So like I said, so when you're doing it for your organization, you need to have a meaningful name, but for demo purpose, you can have something like a test or SRV1. And so the main reason you need to make meaningful is somebody else, when they're looking into the particular portal, they need to understand it. Otherwise, they'll think like this is for testing and they may delete it. Okay. So virtual machine disk type should be SSD hard disk. It can be three types. It can be a solid state drive. It can be the normal hard disk, or it can be a premium solid state also. So normal hard disk is a little bit what do you call it? It doesn't give you that much performance or that much output. So when you're going for a testing or for a small operation, you can go for a HDD. But if you're going for a little bit of more performance and little bit of more usage you're seeing, you can go for a solid state hard disk. So solid states will give you basically more reliability. So the number of crashes and all will be much lesser in solid state hard disk. And when you're going for a solid state premium, so the charges will be little high, but you'll be getting even better throughput and better performance with a premium solid state hard disk. So username and password, whatever you need this one to be, and subscription. So if you have an enterprise subscription, you can select that. And you can need to create a resource group. So if you already have a resource group, you can use existing resource group and select that, or you can give a create new and just put a name here. So it will create a resource group for the virtual machine.
Okay.
Okay. So here comes the location part. So like I said, so this location is basically where this particular resource group is going to get created and where your virtual machine is going to get created. So West US2, you can choose any location here. So you'll have multiple locations here. Even I think South India is also a part of the location. So if the location is not having enough resources to manage your virtual machines, it will tell you upfront that resource is not available in this location. Please select a different location.
Okay. No, but just wanted to understand
Hmm.
the portal.azure.com. Whenever I go into that, what happens?
Yeah.
It asks me my the user details and everything, or it is open for everyone to log in.
It is actually, you need to have just a Microsoft account to log in, but based on your licensing and all, you need to choose like what all details need to see. So let me show you. I'm not sure if mine has expired or not.
No, because now if I log in, it is connecting to my office account and I can see the portal, but I'm just trying
Yes,
to
yes.
create one basically.
So okay, let's configure to my MFA. Okay, so this is my one of my trial tenant portal. So basically, what I do is, so you can do, so once we are almost through with the course, or at least we are till more than half of the place. So you can create a trial tenant. It will ask for your credit card and it will charge you ₹2 and it will give it back to you. And it will give you 1,300, I mean, almost $200 for a month. So in a month, using that $200, you can play around, you can create some virtual machines, you can create some resource groups and all and try it out. So there is one more thing called Microsoft Self-Paced Labs. Self-paced. Yeah. Okay, so these are basically like Azure portals where you can learn some simple things regarding Azure. So say for example, you want to learn about networking concepts or you want to learn this Azure virtual machine, whatever I'm covering today, you can just go launch this lab. They will give you some credentials to log in. Using that, you can log into this particular lab and you can try creating virtual machines and all. So for networking, similarly, they have labs and all. For deploying network security groups, also load balancer, they have labs. So this is something which you don't need a credit card and all. You can directly go into the lab and you can check it out. Okay. But if you have an environment in office and you have enough licenses or you have the a particular permission over the environment, you can try it out also. So normally, if you see, like you can see all the information here. So you can go into like creating a new resource group. So if I click on create a resource, I can create a new resource group here. I can build a Windows Server 2016 VM. I can build a web application. I can build a function app, Cosmos DB, Kubernetes service. All these things I can build from here itself. Okay, so for the time being, like you can go into location and select the location. So if you have a license, you can give it a no. So if you don't have a license, you need to, sorry, if you do not, if you're having a license, then you can give it a yes and it won't charge you for the license. If you don't have a license, give it no and you will be charged for the license. So once you select all these things, you need to give a proper resource group name here and you can go into the next one, that is the size. Karthik, you're with me?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm just seeing the slides. Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, so basically you can choose a size here. So like this is what I was talking about. So if you see here, the basic one, that is the DS1 V2 standard. So it is just having 1 core and 3.5 GB of RAM. So they are saying like if you're going for a bigger one, that is 2 cores, we'll give you 7 GB of RAM. If you're going for more than 2 cores, we can have a 14 GB RAM also. So again, the pricing and all will change. So this is like basic 91 rupees is 183 rupees is 216 rupees. So depending on your need, you can choose a particular virtual machine and you can create it.
Okay. 91 rupees for the
Hour
usage
per
or for
hour.
just creating per hour? Yeah.
No, like this is for usage, not for creating. So basically, they will say like this 91 rupees is per hour. Sorry, not per hour. This is I think per month. Oh, one second, I need to confirm that.
Okay.
Uh, Pricing calculator. Yeah, so this is the one which will be used mostly by your management and the one who manages the project. So virtual machines. So West US. So if you see like all these locations are available. So West US 2 we're going, Winston Windows, OS, standard. We were talking about a DS1 B2. Okay. Okay, so I'll go with this. Let's see. So it's saying like 12 rupees per hour. So I think like this is for 91 rupees per month then. So I can have a pay as you go 1 year reservation and also 9,000 rupees per month is comes in.
Okay.
So again, if you want to add a managed hard disk and all, so again still change. So basically you can go till 11,000 per month for a single virtual machine. So if you're going to add more and more, basically it will get increased by that. So if a D1 1 core 3. This is the one I think 1 core 3.5 GB RAM, so it will cost you around 6,000 rupees only. Okay. So this is how your pricing calculator also works. So once I selected the first, I said DS1 V2 I'm selecting, and then I'll go into the settings. So here I'm choosing manage disk, yes. So what is this manage disk and unmanaged disk? So basically a managed disk is Azure is saying like you don't have to worry about the scaling, you don't have to worry about its performance, you don't have to worry about the disks. Microsoft is going to take care of it, or Azure is going to take care of it. And we will provision a disk for your virtual machines and we will get it associated with it. You don't have to worry about that. So when we go to unmanaged disk, that time Microsoft is saying like you need to provide your storage account where your disk is there, and you need to map your disk to your virtual machine, and it's up to you to manage your virtual hard disk. So that time we won't be responsible for anything happening with your hard disk. So we will go into that while creating a Linux virtual machine.
Okay.
Okay, so for this one I'm giving yes. Okay, Microsoft recommends a managed storage because things will be in their control.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is network. So here, like if I have a network, I can click this arrow mark and I can select my network, or I can go for a new Windows Server network. So basically, this name is randomly picked by Microsoft. So this, if I'm having a network, I can choose it. So normally in organization, you will be having your network already built by
They'll have
your
their own
network team.
network. Yeah.
Yeah. So subnet and all again, so you need to select that. And IP address, if you need a public IP, you can have this, or you can give it to none if you don't have public IP. And this is a security group, that is the NSG firewall. So here you need to give your firewall if it is already built. So extensions and all, we will go into it slowly.
No,
So for the time
if I
being,
didn't have the NSG, what will happen here? If I don't have the NSG created,
it will
this is the
create
first
a
one.
new NSG here. So
Okay.
like, if you
So
see
that
this
NSG will
new
be
thing,
my network
pardon me,
security group for my all my VMs whenever I create it after this. Yeah.
I didn't get that question
No,
again.
no. What I'm asking is, if I for the first time, if I'm creating an NSG,
Hmm.
okay, for the next time when I use it, So basically, I can use the same NSG into all my networks, probably all my VMs whenever I'm creating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So once you have your, and if you do not have an NSG, then this will go and create an NSG for you. Okay. So
Okay.
next thing is like you can enable. This is what I was talking about. So this extensions and availability, will go into it in the next class. So basically, this is what I was talking about. So in the monitoring, if you're enabling the monitoring, it will create a diagnostic account for you, and there it will put all your monitoring and guest OS diagnostic logs. So we will see that in the monitoring class. Okay, so here for the time being, you can keep it disabled and all. So if it is a no basic account or basic virtual machine or basic environment, you can always disable it. But all for your production and your QA and all, it's always good to have it enabled. Okay, so this is basically the summary, and it will do a validation pass that your subscription is having the money and all to create this or not. And you can download this template and reuse the template to create more virtual machines of this type. And once you give OK, it will do this deployment is in progress thing. And once your deployment is succeeded, you can see your virtual machine getting created. So if you just search for your name SRV1, or if you just go into virtual machines or your resource group also, you can see your virtual machine available there. Okay, so deployment succeeded came. And once you go into your virtual machine, if you click on this, if you see like it is already running, so the start button is disabled. So if you click on connect, here. So if you click on connect, you'll have this RDP file getting downloaded, and if you click on it, so it will again ask you for a prompt for the publisher information and all. So click on connect, it will ask you for the admin credentials and password. So once you go in, you'll be able to log into your virtual machine server. So if you're trying it, okay, this is what also happened to me. So when I tried it from my office account, I was not able to do RDP because my firewall is preventing me from doing RDP to another virtual machine in another environment. So if I want to do it from office, I need to go out of my VPN, go into a public network like a public internet, or from my home internet, I can do RDP to that. So if I want to do it from my office network, then definitely I need to reach out to my security team to open a port in the firewall for me to do that.
Okay, so where after the deployment is succeeded, so
Yeah.
under the resources, I can see my the VMs, yeah?
Yes, under your resource groups. So let me quickly see. Yeah. So here, if you see, if you go into this is basically the resource group icon, and under the resource group, you can see all your resource groups. So Win servers is the resource group in which we created. And if you click on Win servers, you can see all your virtual machine, your disk, your network interface, public IP address, your network security group, and your virtual network. You can go to each and everything and reconfigure it if you need. And if you see this disk, this is how it looks when you create a managed disk. So if you are not creating a managed disk, if you're going for a storage account, it will be different. So I will see into that in the Linux one. Okay. So basically, this is how you create a virtual machine. So for the demo and for the class, I'm doing it in this way. But in organization wise, you don't create it in this way. In organization wise, always first you will create the network, then you will create the firewall, then you will put a virtual machine inside the firewall. So even more things are there. You may need to create a scale set, you may need to create an availability set and all, and then put your virtual machines inside that. So that will come to it in the next classes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, where was I? Yes, so once you RDP into the virtual machine, so you can see like all your local servers, file and storage devices, everything here. If you go into the particular my computer, so you can see like we have a C drive, which is by default 128 GB, and a temporary D drive. So this temporary D drive is the one which we saw in the starting. Yeah, so this temp drive is the temporary D drive, which is mapped to a physical state
One, yeah,
for
the
a
staging one.
paging file. Yeah, it's for a paging file.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go inside this D drive, I'll see a small notepad with a warning message that this is a temporary disk. Any data stored on disk is subject to loss and there is no way to recover it. So basically they're asking like not to store any data here because it may get deleted when your virtual machine is stopped or getting deallocated and all. So mostly what in organizations they do is they use this temporary hard disk for a file share. So normally in file share, people will be putting some file and taking it from there. So basically they're not going to store the file there. So that's the reason they use a temporary disk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what was the resource group I was talking about. And if you go inside the particular hard disk, you can see like this is the size is getting disabled here, and it's a premium drive, and it's the size is disabled. So why it is disabled and how do we enable it is, for enabling this you need to stop the virtual machine. So basically, like if you go into the particular resource group, okay, screenshots are repeating. So okay, we will go into stopping and creating this in manage virtual disk. So let me go to the next one, that is creating a storage account. In the meantime, let me see if anything is left out here. Okay, so this extensions and all I'll go into detail later. So for the time being, you can think of it like it gives your virtual machine additional capabilities through post deployment configuration. So one simple example is, say for example, you want to make your virtual machine IIS whenever it is built. So what you can do is you can add a small PowerShell script into the extension, saying like once what it means, like once the virtual machine is up and running, you deploy the script into it, and whatever the script says, do it in that, and automated tasks and all you can have it. So basically, you can have custom scripts, you can have DAC configurations. We'll see this, and you can collect diagnostic data also if you need from your virtual machine. So basically, this PowerShell DSC and this custom script extension we'll see in the next class. Okay, so next is related resources. So like I said, so for a virtual machine, you definitely need a resource group, you definitely need a storage account, virtual network. You may or may not need a public IP address. You can have a network interface, and you may or may not need a data disk, but your OS disk is required. Okay, so this is basically how you can create a VM from the portal. So this we saw. We'll try to create a VM from templates and PowerShell in the next class. So using client SDK also, you can create a VM. Using REST API, you can create it, or using Azure CLI also, you can create it. So Azure CLI is nothing but the PowerShell in the portal is called the Azure CLI. Okay, so this is what we did. We went into we went into compute, and we selected Windows Server Data Center. So we gave the basic details and all, and we had our virtual machine created. So next is storage accounts. So Azure Storage Account provides a unique namespace to store and access your Azure storage data objects. So all objects in a storage account are built together as a group, and by default, the data in your account is available only to you, the account owner. Okay, Karthik, you with me?
You know, I'm just having a cough. That's why I've just muted. That's fine.
Okay,
I'm just
okay,
listening.
no.
Yeah. If I have anything, I'll just stop you. Don't worry.
Sure, sure. Okay.
So basically, storage account has been created to access all the Azure storage data objects. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So actually, like you need a storage account to store any kind of data you're putting into Azure. So let it be a blob file, let it be a table, let it be hard disk. So whatever data you're going to store into Azure, you need a storage account for that. So if you're not seeing a storage account also, Azure may be creating it internally to for you.
Okay.
So like in this one, we didn't create a storage account, but definitely like Azure has a storage account for this hard disk. So which the hard disk which we saw, right? The
Yeah,
which one was it?
the VM which we created.
Yeah, so the hard disk of it is internally in a storage account which is managed by Azure and rather than us. So now what we
in
will
that
do
case, it
is
doesn't have any kind of separate storage account or username or password or something to log into that. Yeah.
that storage account.
Yeah.
No. So basically that is managed by Azure, and what Azure is saying is, since it is managed by me, I cannot give you control to it. So what you can do here is you can use the particular hard disk. You can see it from your, you can log into your VM and go to your D drive or C drive and see it, but you cannot manage that storage account because that is managed by Azure.
Okay.
Okay, so basically the storage accounts are of three types. So one is first is the general purpose storage accounts. So a general purpose storage account gives you access to Azure storage services such as tables, queues, files, blobs, and virtual machine disks under a single account. So this type of storage account has two performance tiers. So basically a standard one and a premium one. So a standard storage account allows you to store tables, files, and all. A premium one will give you access to virtual machine disks. So they are recommending to store virtual machine disk in a premium storage account because of performance. So basically your output, throughput, and all will be more with a premium storage account.
Okay.
Okay, so next is the blob storage account. So basically blob is a binary large object. So any kind of file which cannot be structured, so like a table or a schema or anything. So basically it is called a blob. So say for example a video file or an image file or huge logs and all. So there is no structure of it. They're just text files or just CSV files or log files. So these files will be converted to a binary large object and they will be placed in a blob account. So a blob storage account is specialized storage account for storing your unstructured data as blob objects in Azure. So blob storage accounts are similar to your existing general purpose storage accounts and share all the great durability, availability, scalability, and everything. So including 100% API consistency for block blobs and append blobs. So basically, this three types of blobs are there. So block blob, append blobs, and all. And what basically is like, we'll go into it. We'll go into it, I think, in the blob class. We'll go into deep dive into it. Okay. So applications requiring only blob or append blob storage, we recommend using blob storage accounts. So blob storage account exposes the access tier attribute, which has which can be specified during the account creation and modified later. So basically, we have two things, that is called a hot access tier and a cool access tier. So hot access tier is something that means that particular storage account is getting accessed very much. You're not storing much data in it, but it is getting accessed very much. So this kind of account is mostly related to your websites, where people are accessing your website to see the data, to put data into it, to input into some forms and all. So this will be a hot access tier. And here you'll be billed more for your access and less for your you'll be billed more for your storage and less for your access. So this allows you to store data at a lower access cost. So the access cost is less and you can store more data into it. A cool access tier on the other way is it indicates that the object in the storage account will be less frequently accessed. Okay, so this is basically your log file, and log file is a basic cool access tier where your logs will be accessed only when there is an issue. So otherwise you're not going to access your logs. So here this allows you to store the data at a lower data storage cost. So the data store cost here is low because you'll have more data into it. So access cost is low here because this is getting very frequently accessed. So here these are the two access tiers which are available. So based on your requirement, you can choose which one to go for.
Okay.
Okay, so some prerequisites are basically you need a subscription to create a storage account, you need a storage pricing information and all you need to be aware of, and to learn how to create a storage account, you can see this article. So you can create up to 200 uniquely named storage accounts with a single subscription. So definitely you may not need 200, but just for your information, you can have 200 uniquely named storage accounts. So coming to billing, like I said, so you're billed for Azure storage usage based on your storage account. So storage costs are based on the following factors, that is where you're storing it and what kind of account you're using, what is the capacity of your account. So the replication scheme. So this also we'll discuss. So there are three main replication schemes, that is location redundant, geo redundant, and zone redundant. So we'll talk about that. So storage transactions, how much data is getting accessed and all, and data egress. So egress and ingress. So ingress means going into the Azure.
When you say 200 storage accounts, so each and every
Yeah.
storage account will be different when I'm creating a VMs, or it is going to be one storage account?
No, it's not related to VMs. You can have directly a storage account also. So basically, like I can have a storage account for anything. So say for example, like my DB team needs Azure SQL database. I can create a storage account and have a Azure SQL DB into it. Or I can just create a storage account and have a simple file share inside it. Or I can
Okay,
just
like
have a
that we
storage
can have
account.
200, yeah.
Yeah. So we can have 200 different storage accounts.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so basically I was talking about data egress. So there are two terms here, egress and ingress. So ingress is basically data going into Azure and egress is data coming out of Azure. So normally you don't pay for data going into Azure, but you need to pay for data which is coming out of Azure.
So egress is data coming into Azure, yeah?
Out. So ingress is data going into Azure. So egress is data coming out of Azure. So for coming out, you need to pay. For going in, you don't need to pay.
Okay, can you give an example when coming out of Azure?
Say for example,
Maybe
you
if I
have
want maybe if I want some probably like some database information.
yes,
So I'm just
yes,
trying to pull it out from
yes.
my Azure, probably like a SQL DB or
Yeah,
something like that.
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly the example I was going for. So if I have a database in Azure and I'm pulling some data from my like online account to my on-premise account, so I'm doing a sync between them, or I'm pulling data from online to on-prem. So that time I'll be charged for the egress.
Okay.
Okay. So region again refers to the geographical region to which your account is based. So account type, what kind of general purpose or blob storage you want, and storage capacity, how much of the account you want. So this also we will go into it. So replication determines how many copies of your data are maintained at one time and in what locations. So transactions refers to the read and write operations to the storage. And here, so data egress refers to data transferred out of an Azure region. So when the data in your storage account is accessed by an application that is not running in the same region, you are charged for data egress. So for Azure services, you can take steps to group your data and services in the same data center to reduce or eliminate data egress charges also. So going into endpoints, so basically your blob services endpoint is basically the URL using which you're going to access your storage account or storage data. So your blob will have something like your whatever name you gave blob.co.windows.net. So table will have like similarly your name.table.co.windows.net and likewise. So these are the replication I was talking about. So the three main are LRS, GRS, and RAGRS. So LRS is basically all data in the storage account is made durable by replicating transactions to three different storage nodes within the same region. So when they say within the same region, so that means mostly like say for example in the same region, that is say Chennai, I have my data center and all, and my data whatever is getting in, it is kept in three different hard disks or three different rack stacks. It is kept. So basically, I have a backup whenever there is a issue with my database or something crashed or something went down. I still have a backup. But still, like say for example, Chennai is hit by a catastrophe and the entire Chennai goes down, then I'm losing all my data. So that time we can go for a GRS, that is a geo redundant storage. So in case of
LRS, can you repeat the LRS part again?
yeah, so basically the data is stored in three different storage nodes within the same
Okay.
region. So say for example, in Chennai data center itself, they will keep three copies of my data.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so in simple terms, in Chennai, they will keep three copies of my data. So if one of them also goes down, so I still have two backups to
Okay.
take place. But
Okay.
what if like Chennai is hit by a catastrophe and the entire Chennai center data center goes down? Then I'm
Okay.
losing all my data. Okay,
Okay.
so it is better to go for a geo-redundant storage. So basically, geo-redundant storage means they will back up my data into multiple regions rather than in a single region. So basically,
Okay.
this default option for redundancy when a storage account is created. So like LRS, transactions are replicated synchronously to three storage nodes within the primary region chosen for creating the storage account. So say for example, like if I've chosen India, then definitely my data is going to be backed up in Chennai, Mumbai, and maybe Delhi or somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
I'll have a more what do you call it? I'll have more capability now. So if Chennai is down, also I still have my data in Mumbai and Delhi. So even we have a zone redundant storage where my data can be backed up in say Singapore or this side say Dubai and all. So that also can be achieved.
Okay.
Okay, so the transaction is also queued for asynchronous replication so that another secondary region hundreds of miles away from the primary, where data is again made durable by replicating into three more storage nodes there. So in Chennai, I'll have three, in Mumbai, I'll have three, in Delhi also, I'll have three nodes. So
Okay.
no matter what happens, my data will be always safe. So unless like entire India goes down, so that time it will be in trouble. Okay. So last one is the read access geo redundant storage. So like the name, it is basically read access enabled, and so basically data is put into this account asynchronously, and it's not synchronous. So like when I do a transaction here, immediately it's not going to reflect there, but asynchronously it will get updated there. So the main thing is it is only read access enabled. I can read the data from whatever is there. So putting the data there is again dependent on my storage account and all. So for a GRS storage account, we now have introduced the limited preview ability to turn on read-only access. So since replication to the secondary region is done asynchronously, this provides an eventual consistent version of the data to read from. So basically, this is a little bit more cheaper and little bit more efficient because your data is there and it is safe. and you can read from the data, but you cannot write data to that particular storage account. So to write it, you need to convert it from a read access storage account to a normal storage account, and then you can write to it. Okay, so this we will see it in that demo. Okay, so basically, like same way, I can go into new and I can create a storage account, or otherwise, this green box is a symbol for storage account. So here I can come and I can click on add. So once I click on add, so I need to give it a good name and I need to give a deployment model. So that is resource manager. So don't choose classic because classic is almost deprecated now. So you can go for a resource manager. So account kind, you can have a general purpose or a blob storage account. So performance, if it is, it again depends. If you don't need that much output, you don't need that much performance invested into it. So you can go for a standard one, or you can go for a premium one. So replication here, you need to choose your LRS, GRS, or RAGRS. And service encryption, you can keep it disabled. You can make it enabled if it is going to have some confidential data or private data. So even like when you're transferring the data also, you can secure it here. Okay, so next is the subscription. So you can choose any subscription which is right for your organization for that. Okay. And again, so it comes into resource group. So here you need to again create a new resource group or use an existing resource group if you have.
Okay.
And you can give it a proper location, and you can.
So when I say resource group, that is going to be including my VMs, NIC, all the things which I've created previously.
Depends. If you want the storage account to be in that resource group, you can use existing, or you can go for a new one if you want it for a different purpose.
Okay. Yeah, understand. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So here, like you can select the location and you can create. So basically, we have created the storage account here, and the storage account again will have its access keys, configuration, CDN, and everything present here. So I'm not going to do anything with it. I'll show you like how when we create a virtual machine, that particular action creates a virtual hard disk here in the storage account.
Okay.
So right now, if you see, like my storage account is not having anything in it.
Yeah.
So next, what
anything in the sense you mean no data in it? You mean? Hello.
So here process. So yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now it's better. Yeah. No, I was asking.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I'm saying is I'm just created the.
Hello.
Yeah. I think my internet quality is not that good.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So what you were saying? Can you repeat that again? Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying like I just created the account. I'm not creating any kind of resource inside the account. So I've just created the account.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going into new. I'm going to compute, and I'll create a Ubuntu server basically. So here I'll again give the server name, disk type, admin, and also I can specify a password.
So this is
for
like
Linux, you can have SSH public key also. Yeah. Creating a Linux virtual machine.
Okay.
Linux. Okay. And again, I'll select whatever
Can't hear you. I'm sorry.
disk type I want.
No. Hello.
And here I'll page account. So what I'll do it is, and yeah, can you hear me?
No, it's disconnecting. You know, now it's better, but it is going up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe can I call you from WhatsApp?
Fluctuating right.
Can I call you from WhatsApp? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I'm just connecting to WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I'm